Learned my lesson this time. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are doing another episode here of the Off the Clock Show. I'm joined today with Marty Hill from Pints and Polishing Podcast, as well as hyperClean Products, which is going to be great in our next week's episode. Be sure to tune in where we're going to talk about upsells. And I believe Marty has a few products that might help you with your upsell game. So I've heard. So Marty, yeah, no problem. So interesting news. You recently got married. So yeah, there it is. Put a ring on it. Good job, man. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks so much, man. 9 years. 9 years since my first divorce. So hopefully this one just keeps rolling.
It will, man.
We do. Absolutely. We got high hopes. It's cool the way we met. It was over beer and just kind of fell in love with each other and what we loved about each other. So it's been great.
Amazing, man. Good for you, man. So we got a cheers to that. You got something poured there? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, me too. Cheers, buddy.
Community.
Ooh.
Good thing we're off the clock.
Yeah, exactly. Good way to start a Tuesday. It's off the clock. Whatever. Yeah. So that's awesome though. But so how was the ceremony, everything?
That's wonderful. All right, I'm going to also be drinking a Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA.
Man, I like the graphics on that too.
Oh, yeah, dude. New Belgium does great with their graphics. Wow. They've got a whole line of this Voodoo Ranger with a bunch of different styles of their beer, and it's always got that skeleton. The little Ranger skeleton's always on it. So.
That is wicked. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, they did good with that. Ceremony was exactly what we wanted.
Okay. That's the best thing. It should be, right? So
exactly. You know, my family wasn't exactly excited. I got some really good friends that I've known for a good chunk of, half of my life in a sense. They weren't too excited.
No way.
Yeah, because I just kind of told them right before it was happening. We decided we were ready. We didn't see any reason in waiting, and so I got a pastor that's a friend of mine, and we went to his church and had a small little quiet ceremony. It was wonderful. I got to do what I wanted to do but
isn't that what it's about though?
Zero concerns for, exactly. There was no, hey, you got to stand here. You got to do this. I mean, it was as lax as you could ever want. And we had fun, man. It was a blast.
That's the best, man. Having fun.
I think so.
It's the unity of two fun people coming together for a lifetime of fun. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Our first date was I took her to a buddy of mine who was starting to get into stand-up comedy.
Oh,
and
no
so
way.
That was the first date. And so that's where we went back and took pictures afterwards and drank some beer, and then went over to another bar that we kind of relived our first date, and that was fun.
Oh, that's awesome, actually. Full circle,
Full circle, yeah.
Yeah.
So far, so good. The big wedding we'll do it, the actual big wedding thing we'll do. Sure. She wants to do it in Brazil, where she's from. So.
Oh, man.
We'll go there and do it.
So I'll expect my invitation then.
Dude, yeah, you definitely will. She was showing me spots. I mean, she wants to do it. She's got a little place right there on the beach. She wants to do it. And
oh, man.
I mean,
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get some caipirinhas then if that's the case.
No doubt.
Yeah. Oh man, that is awesome, man. Yeah. That's what it's about though. Like, so my wife now, only wife ever. We got married twice though. Same woman, 2 times. So proposed the first time, and then her father, he was dying of cancer at the time. So we did kind of like a rush wedding of sorts to make sure that he could walk her down the aisle. Fortunately, he made it for the second wedding as well, which was awesome. But the first time around, we were trying to please everybody, and it was like, okay, we got to do this or do that, or, oh, so-and-so wants to come, but they want the fish. So-and-so's coming, they want the chicken, just so many things. And honestly, we were young. We had 4 months to plan it. We just did whatever. So it was really good. It was lovely. But the second one, which was our kind of like the proper one, that time around was a lot different. There were people that, same thing. They were upset. Some people just decided they're like, I'm not going to go, this and that. But we were like, listen, this is for us. So we basically just rented out this hall where my whole family was from. They've all moved away from there since, but small, tiny little village. There's like 1,200 people or something. Rented out the hall right across from the church. And we just partied. It was basically just like one massive party. And so it was nice because we were in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? So you could literally do anything. But that was fun.
And it's fun second time around because we know much more of what we want to do, how to plan it better. And we didn't do a reception. We're going to do that later. When I got one daughter that's going to come back for spring break. So we'll do it when she's here. And we're basically going to do that. Just throw a little party, have all the friends, all the people that got mad at us get to come over and drink some beer. I mean, it'll be great, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Man, that's awesome though. Yeah.
All right. So you went to Cuba. I didn't see any Cuban cigar. I didn't see any show up on my front door. So I didn't know if you actually went to Cuba.
Yeah. So I did go to Cuba. There's some issues with so we stayed at this resort, and there was a guy there that I used to know, and he's still there. And he was like, yeah, you know, all the cigar stuff now is going through this other guy that's there, unless I wanted to go into town, and I just didn't feel like doing that. So I went to see the guy, and he showed me the boxes he had. And even though they had the right, you know, slips and information and stuff, I was looking at this and I was like, no, man, this is not it. So then anyway, I did check out some stores as well. And even some of the stuff that they had, you could tell, like I'm not a huge, you know, cigar connoisseur or whatever, but I can tell when something's basically just banana leaves, you know. So I saw some stuff and I was like, man, this is not good. So they're going through some things right now in Cuba for sure. It was pretty interesting to see. Like, there's some friends we had there that, you know, from, I don't know, 10 years ago, talking with them and stuff, and they've done a lot of changes ever since the Obama administration. And one thing they had was this thing called the CUC, which is the convertible peso. It was to be on par with the US dollar. So that's why they made that, because of the embargo and everything like that, the blockades. So their money became essentially worthless on the world stage because all the banks were blocking them. So they made the CUC to kind of compete and buy goods. They just scrapped it, which for tourists is good because we can go down there now and spend Canadian dollars. And it's as if it's like regular currency. It would be the equivalent of me going to the States and spending Canadian dollars there and people just accepting it like on par, like one for one, right? Without doing an exchange. For the Cuban people, though, everywhere wants you to pay them in pesos now, but it's like I was getting 50 to 1, like 50 pesos for one Canadian dollar, and they get paid around 2,000 pesos a month. So I don't know, it's like 160 Canadian a month, which is probably like $80 US at this point. But yeah, it was bad. But things are just going up in price. And then with the war in Ukraine, Russia, and all that, and also the things that Trump set up, blocking them from getting petrol from South America, all their lines of everything are cut off. Like, they can't get stuff. Like, they were getting products from, you know, Russia, China, things like that. That's all basically shut down. So, man, it's bad. So I noticed a lot of things where people were kind of cutting corners to make ends meet, which makes sense. But at the same time, it meant that the cigars that they were pumping out, there's a lot of, the quality is just not there, so it wasn't worth it. But yeah, I did pick up some rum though, because you can't really. It's hard to fake that. You know? But yeah, so I did get some rum. So anyway, I'll be definitely sending you a wedding gift though. But my buddy Nick, he's got some Cohibas here, so I'll send you some of those down.
Yeah, Cohibas are good.
5s. Ooh, he's got these Maduro 5s. Oh my god, they're like a little bit shorter, you know, thicker cigar. Oh my gosh, but super smooth. It's because he had this connection. He was getting like crates of them in before, but then he had to buy 4 humidors or something like that just to put them all in it. And he doesn't really smoke cigars that often, so they're just there. Anyway,
so they were struggling. And what's the environment like up in Canada? Because there's definitely plenty of people here that are beginning to have some struggles. What's the environment up there?
Yeah, here it's half and half. Like, I feel sometimes like my wife and I are kind of secluded in a bubble because like just our lifestyle, and with several businesses, we're kind of recession proof in a way. So like little bumps in the road don't impact us as much anymore. We've diversified so much. Like when we go shopping, even now through the whole pandemic, like I don't really look at price tags, just to be honest. And that's not a, you know, in someone's face kind of moment. It's just my life is kind of just separated from how things used to be. But that being said, we do have some friends that I know are really going through it, man. And I didn't even realize, like they're carrying on life, trying to be as normal as possible, you know, but then when you sit down, you have a dinner with them, or something like that. There was one friend of mine, we were driving to the store and we took his car and his tank was on empty. And I was like, bro, like, we got to pull over, man. Like, you get some gas, your tank's on empty. And he's like, yeah, I will in a minute. I was like, okay. So I'm driving. And I was like, I got a full tank, so we can take my truck if you want. But so we're driving. And then he pulled by maybe like 3-4 different gas stations, but never pulled in. And I kept reminding him, I'm like, bro, I don't want to get stuck on the side of the road. Let's just pull in. He was like, yeah, I will in a minute. And I started to realize probably just doesn't have it, So I waited. We finished our shopping and stuff. Then we went back and I just asked him, I was like, man, is everything okay? Like, you need gas. You got to stop. And he's like, honestly, no. He's like, I only have enough. I have to make a choice between like this and this and this. And he's like, basically, I'm just waiting till payday. So I'm trying to run on fumes. I was like, Jesus, man, like it's crazy. So maybe it's isolated incidents, but from what I'm seeing out there, I'm seeing a lot of businesses struggling. That's what I'm seeing. And I think a lot of people just aren't kind of aware of their situation. Like they think it's maybe temporary or I don't really know, but the economy has definitely changed. I can say that. Our business though, like we've just ramped up efforts on all fronts. So we're kind of staying the same in terms of our growth level. I wouldn't say we're growing more than we were expecting, but we're definitely hitting the targets that we had expected. Like some of them for the year 3 of businesses, we're hitting targets we're expecting. And then my long-term businesses that I've had for like 10, 12 years, those ones, our growth is the same, but like one of them, like my marketing agency, we're at capacity. We've been at capacity for 6 years. We have massive clients and there's no point in us growing beyond that. So
yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How long were those? Because you said you've insulated yourself, and I bet you there's people that are listening. There's users of OrbisX that maybe they just started a couple years ago. There's a bunch of them that
some of them even during the pandemic.
During the pandemic, right? So they don't really have an understanding. There's not what I'm seeing and what I'm learning from guys is that they literally have no. There's nothing in their program in a sense, right? They've been bought, they've been buying basically a system to sell to a very good, influential, big influx in the market that we saw 17, 18, 19, and 20, right? 20 was still great for a lot of people because most governments paid people to be good, right? Like a lot of us got a lot of the US, I think even in Canada, right? Like you guys got some
we had a
extra
program called Curb or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of held the economy up. That's starting to go away. Plus now we got inflation. There's many guys that just don't.
Plus here they're starting to tax people. They're treating it almost as if it was a loan. And they're saying,
okay, yeah, perfect. So we're waking up and going, oh, I've been doing this for so many years, but that's not going to be, you just can't keep going that way, right?
Not sustainable.
It's not sustainable, but you've had businesses that have been around for a long time, which means
and they've gone through ups and downs. Like 2008, one of our businesses, 80% of our clients were in Southern US. And whenever the whole housing crash and all that stuff, man, I had guys that, they had outstanding billables with us, like $20,000, $30,000. And they would just call and they'd be like, look, Shawn, like you're a great guy. Like I love working with you guys. And they were hiring, mostly migrant workers. And they're like, all my construction guys just quit. The house owners don't want to pay the bills, can't pay the bills. So unfortunately, I can't pay you. They're like, I want to, I just can't. And so we had to write off a lot of accounts. It was a really tough time that year. But I had to learn to adapt. I was like, okay, so these aren't the ideal clients, and putting all my eggs in that one basket is not a very smart thing to do. And that was the year 2008, 2009. My wife and I decided we got to diversify like crazy, and we have to strengthen our whole organization.
And for others, and I went through that too, but I didn't go through the Twin Towers debacle.
Right? Yeah.
The Twin Towers debacle caused a massive economic shutdown also. Whereas, we have detailers that are locally here that have been on our podcast that they couldn't stay in business. Yes. Yeah, they went through it and couldn't stay in business. And that was the point was, fortunately, 20 years later, the government paid people to stay in business.
Yeah.
The economy and everything shut down 20 years ago. Nobody got paid. If people didn't know how to navigate and swim and change directions or dive a little deeper or whatever it is that you think it needs to be, right? Like there's all kinds of things that you can do. And if they don't know how to do that because they've just been, in a sense, been a fattened calf because they got to suck on the milk of some very, very fat times. We're now going into where their streams are drying up. They're starting to really make questions. Will they be able to survive?
What they were doing last week isn't working this week, and they're pulling their hair out trying to figure out, like what's happened. Yeah.
So this is the interesting thing, right? Like people want to make investments onto whether it's big vehicles or boats or you took a trip. Why should somebody at a moment like this take a trip? Is that something that they should do?
100%, I think. And sometimes the trip might be just the local spa. Other times it's like I did. We went to Cuba, whole family. So we usually travel
right. But it depends on, you've been in business for 10, 12 years. You got multiple systems of income. You were able to take a trip that's a little different than the average detailer.
It's true. Yeah. Like we usually travel 4 to 5 times a year. During the pandemic, we went to Greece, Mexico, Cuba, Cuba twice, actually. It was nice. Love Cuba. It's our second home as Canadians.
What is it? The food? Like, what is it you love about Cuba? You didn't get good cigars and you can get rum wherever. It wasn't the old cars. I mean, what is it about Cuba that you love?
True. So although we did see some really nice cars, but so the way that Canadians are treated there is like exceptional. Yeah. And so we get really good treatments. We have really good relations with them. And so like most of their solar panels come from Canadian company in Alberta. And then similarly, we have a Canadian company down there that's mining nickel. They just found a really huge, it's the biggest gold deposit in the Caribbean. There's something like 8 tons of gold or something like that, which is substantial. And then other things too, like refining the oil and helping them with that. Their oil can't be used in cars though. The gasoline, it's too much sulfur. So they use it to power electricity. So the Canadian company is involved in that. So, and basically because of that, they love us. We get a really good exchange rate, the culture, and honestly, the beaches. Oh, the beaches are like none other. And like, I used to live in the Caribbean. I was 5 minutes from a huge beach, and nothing compares to Cuba's beaches. Oh my God. Amazing.
I mean, is it the sand? Is it the water? What is it?
I think it's a mixture of 3 things. Yeah. I think it's the sand itself. And then the water, there's just no seaweed, nothing like that. Like usually the kind of water that you'll see, on like the screensavers and stuff where it's crystal clear all the way down, but then there's not really a good beach. That's why they build those docks. In this case, you have a mix of both. So you have the really nice water plus the beach and just, the music and the rum in the air.
Blue water?
Yeah.
Is that blue? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. And then no sharks. So that's another bonus. Yeah. So if usually like even the island we used to live on, if you go like Atlantic side, you have a lot of sharks, bad waves, things like that. Caribbean side, you're usually good to go. But
I don't remember if we talked about this, right? You've dove, haven't you?
No, actually snorkeled. No. Yes. But
snorkeled. Yes. Okay. I was going to ask, have you seen I've only, when my diving, I've only seen one shark, but it was a very small baby shark. It was off in the distance, like we've never really been around sharks.
Okay. No, I've seen some big ones. And because the island we used to live in was near Trinidad, and the sharks that go back and forth between there, oh man, they're bad ones.
Their migration pattern.
Yeah. And the tiger sharks, they're aggressive, super aggressive. Yeah. So you don't want to mess with those. There's been some like businessmen that travel and then their wife like falls off a boat during a thing and then he gets paid out the insurance money. It's like, yeah.
You're not serious, right? You're not serious. That happens?
I wish I was joking, but that happens. Yeah.
That happens?
And then
that guy must have been in tough times, huh?
Big time. Yeah. See, he didn't diversify his business. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's been some incidences like that happen, but yeah, no diving, although I should have, because they had a lot of shipwrecks near where we used to live. Yeah, which was pretty cool, But
shipwrecks are good.
Yeah, I'm just terrified of going that far down and then like something happens and then I don't know. So I'm scared of heights, like jumping out of a plane, not for it, and then deep sea diving. Maybe I just needed to try it once and then
you need to try it. down, you're 100 feet down and you're in their world. Like it's a complete different experience, man.
That's true. It must be so quiet and peaceful too, though.
It's very quiet. You just hear your breathing and you just watch everything move around. And that's
pretty wicked though. Yeah.
It's cool.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I did snorkeling when we were in Colombia. I did a lot of snorkeling there. And then, oh man, snorkeling in Colombia, real quick side story. I found a family of stingrays, big manta rays, huge ones. And this one guy was yelling from the shore and he was like, get out of there, get out of there. Me and my buddy, but we're trying to lure them in. So we ended up getting a few of them to come in with us. They were like little dogs. So then brought them over by the shore and this guy runs out and he's like, let me show you. And he goes and he puts his hand underneath them, lifts them up a bit. We're there like petting them just like dogs. It was ridiculous. My wife almost gave it a kiss and then its eye kind of like blinked a little and she just got freaked out. But you should have seen the stingers on those things, man. Holy, like they're no joke. So now I know why the guy was yelling at us, We
did that in Cayman.
Nice.
You go to Cayman Islands, there's a whole little place. It's called like Stingray Island or something. And you go out there, there's all these boats around. It's kind of one of those, what's where the sand gets a little higher. What's that called?
Oh, I know what you mean. It's
a berm or something like that. Yeah. And all these stingrays are out there. And that was fun. You do
pretty wild, huh?
Yeah,
like
crazy.
These creatures just, they're huge and they just live like that. It's nuts.
I thought he was yelling at you not to get out of there because
he thought
the great whites were hunting them or something.
Oh yeah,
I love those videos, man. The great whites go after like the orcas and all that. Like go after and chase those stingrays.
Yeah, the way they hunt. I watched the show on orcas and they had some seals on this iceberg. And one of the orcas was smashing one side of the iceberg to tip it so that the seals would slide off the other side. And then the rest of the herd just gobbled them up, man. It was nuts. You know what I mean?
Nuts.
But strategic planning,
Very strategic. Very.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of strategic, because that's an interesting word, right? Like if we're a detailer that hasn't experienced the past 10 to 12 years of business, we've only been open the past 4 to 5. We probably have a lot of self-confidence about ourselves, but as we've seen, and somebody reached out to us, their $1,000 to $4,000 ticket prices aren't selling quite like they used to.
It's true. Yeah.
It is
mentioned that they're doing everything right in terms of like they have staff, they're doing social media stuff, SEO. They've got someone answering the phones. They have an actual shop. They're doing mobile as well. They've got all these things set up. Spending decent money on Google, like $6,000 a month kind of thing, but still not closing those big ticket items that they used to close. And so I read through because they filled out like a whole questionnaire type thing. And I was asking some questions before the show, like tell me a bit about the business so we can kind of analyze things and look for some holes in your process. Most of the process, if you just look from a theory point of view, seems to make sense. It's like, oh yeah, that'll work. Right. But when it's put into practice, there's other elements that you have to consider. And one of those being the current state of the economy, and that you might do everything right as they tell you, marketing, SEO, website, all this stuff. But if you're going after the wrong market, it's not going to matter what you do. And throwing more money at it's not going to solve the problem. It's just not. So I think taking a step back, and that's what I tend to do when I go on vacation. The reason why we go 4 or 5 times a year, I take a step back and I look at things, because I would rather lose that week and then know what I'm going to do for the next 6 months, guaranteed, versus just keep, swinging at the same nail and it's never going in.
All right. So when you're on vacation though, are you I just got to ask the question because of my own right
curiosity.
My own curiosity. Are you I'm on vacation and so I'm technically off the clock, right? You completely, the business is completely gone, or I'm the vacation kind of guy that goes, boy, this is a great new place to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I might scale my workload back a little bit.
Yeah.
But boy, I love to sit. I mean, we take a family vacation every summer to go to the beach, and it's usually somewhere in Destin area over to Panama City, somewhere
Very
through
nice.
that little. We're headed, and we'll venture around. We went to a little peninsula part of sort of by the Keys one year. And that was fun because it was this own little jetty kind of was like 20 people, 20 houses out there. Like it was secluded. It was the only time I've seen, actually, I found a shark tail. Basically somewhere out in the water a little bit ago, a baby shark got eaten by a bigger shark. And
all that was left is
this like 2-foot chunk of a tail comes floating up. And well, I take it inside and that shark, it's tough to cut, man. It was, I was taking every knife I could to get into it. So I couldn't get very far, and I could just kind of get into the meat a little bit. And I pulled the meat out, put in a little oil, some seasoning, brought it back out. Right. Like, why not? It's fucking shark. When else are you going to get to eat shark? Exactly. Right. So that was fun. But normally we go, somewhere a little more touristy ish and a little house, and we'll do that. And I love those. And even when we were in the Cayman, I really loved the beach because it was a great new place to work.
Absolutely.
And if somebody was going to be sitting on a lawn chair or, beach chair, whatever you want to call it, and playing, which they should, right? They're on vacation.
Of course.
I should get to do what I enjoy doing. And so I would just edit videos or edit my post or right. Like 100%. I love working. So I just keep going, and it's just a fun new place to work. Like that's always been my style, but I'm curious from you. Were you I clock out and I'm gone? What do you do?
I'm the same way. So because I treat it like how I treat my regular life. And that is that most people, when they set up a business, they try and structure their time around a job. They think that you're supposed to set up your business hours to be, okay, I'm going to work this time and then shut down at this time. And then weekends, I have them off. So I work weekends as well, every single one. I just might work less, but then sometimes I take a random Wednesday off and I just take the whole day off, but then I'll work all of Saturday, stuff like that. So I don't really structure it around the typical schedule. And then when I go on vacation, I just do different work. So I definitely do less, but that's only because I have more stuff to do. Well, that's kind of like, if we have doctor's appointments on a Wednesday or something, well, I'm going to doctor's appointments, so I'm doing less work, so for me, it's just part of life, the location is just like you say, it's just a new place to work, but my work never fully stops. I did tell the group, guys, I'm not going to be replying to messages. I'm basically going dark for that kind of thing, but that's mostly because messages oftentimes are not very productive. They're productive for the other person, but for the business owner, usually they're not super productive. So I try to just say, hey, listen, I'm not doing that. I did handle the occasional one, but I said, if there's anything urgent, just send me an email. That was easier to, get everything out in one thing. But when I say not productive, messages are helpful, but if someone can send you an email, they put all their thoughts in it versus 100 messages back and forth. And it's a different experience, but my family knows, they understand, okay, this is what daddy does. And so we set aside time, and you just have to time it right. So I say, okay.
So hold on, Pod. Like, that's what I wanted to ask you. That's what I find fascinating, right? Because purely also from a personal side, right? Like my first marriage and that family, quote unquote, didn't quite really like what I did. And I remember the last family vacation I went on with my ex-wife. She was so mad at me for building a website.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, the kids are fucking asleep. I'm sitting at the table and I'm punching out a website. I love to do it. It was fun. It was 2011, right? Like you remember that was early parts of web design. You could do stuff like, if I would have continued on, I would be quite a web design guru.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was a long time ago, right? Like, I'm sitting there on the table punching out websites. That was my goal for the week. While we're on vacation, my goal for the week was to build a new website.
And what's wrong with that? Like, I mean,
Well, you just so go to happen. You had said your family understands. So that's what I found interesting. I don't know. I did an episode at Mobile Tech Expo that was on entrepreneurism. Yeah. I asked a couple guys that were up there, well, not only questions about this, right? How much should you work? You said if you take off on Wednesday, you're going to work all day Saturday. There was a guy that that says he's teaching people entrepreneurism and says you should take every weekend off. You should only work 5 days a week. He also told people to shut their business. He also showed people to shut their business down. When Corona happened, he told people to close their business and go for a hike. And now he's telling people that they should only work 5 days a week and take 2 days off, but he's training them.
Yeah.
And he's training them also on entrepreneurism. So
setting them up for failure, really, in my opinion. Like, yeah, because, okay, there's 52 weeks in a year. If you take 2 days off a week, okay, you just gave up over 100 working days. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you should make your whole entire life about business, but
okay, but why not?
An hour?
Why not?
In an hour? And
why not though? We just said, right? Like you've got to, if you're 2 to 3 years into this business and you hope to be at 50, should your business not be about your life and your life not be about your business? Should they not interact it all together?
I would say so. I think they need to be one and the same. And so like me, there's weeks where sometimes it's 16-hour days. And, depends if I'm working on a crazy feature for OrbisX or if my other businesses have fires I have to put out, things like that. And then there's other weeks where my staff just seems to really be on the ball and there's not too much for me to do. And so I'm kind of like, okay, and I think a lot of it's just about planning and talking with your spouse and stuff. Like my kids, even I could play with my kids for, 2 hours. After that point, they've kind of started to just play on their own and they're kind of bored of playing with daddy and they go and they do their own thing. What am I supposed to do? Just sit there and watch them? Like, it's not fun for me. It's not fun for them. So like, you got to do something with your time. And I think that if you get enjoyment out of your business, it doesn't feel like work and you're wanting actually to do it more. Like me, I wake up and if I have an appointment outside of my businesses, I'm actually upset. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to get back and just like get some work done. I'm excited to get work done. Yeah. The minute that I lose that passion for a particular business, I usually sell it and it's just gone. Now, I find that in the last 6-7 years, all of my businesses that I haven't lost any passion or anything like that. And I think it's because I, on purpose, built companies in a certain way that they would satisfy the lifestyle I wanted to have. They make my family's needs happy as well. And not just financially, but even time commitment wise. So that was by design. It wasn't.
And I think that's where it moves into this point, right? Like, how do you design a business to do that, everything you want out of your own personal life, but also to run a business during the times like now where many people are starting to struggle because they've chosen a path that was during a high economic time. They have no idea, just literally that. I watched a documentary the other day, and this is what was fascinating. This is what makes me think of it. There's a very large, it was a documentary on food, right? So, they're always going to set up this, it's high cholesterol, high fat content that created this obese person who, is now having a lot of problems, right? Their choices of food made their body the way it is.
Yeah.
But they got to a point in life where they go, wait, I have to live like this from now on. And they like, if they would have just taken a little bit less, instead, maybe done a little bit of this, like they're 30 years later, their life would be different than when it is now, right? If they would have taken some different choices. And that's what I find is interesting about this conversation, because you got guys that are listening that they're only, like we said, 2020. They're only 1, 4, 5, 6, 8 years into business. They don't really have any idea. And many of them are waking up like that woman in the video going, wait, I've been doing this. What? How come now? They're like, how come now? How come now?
What happened?
There's part of being in business that it takes having adaptation, having the ability to see what else, longevity, what's going on, how we navigate. That's the word I like to use, navigating through these times.
It's true. Well, think about like a movie theater, for example. Okay. Movie theaters have had to adapt in a crazy way because you can now buy a projector for your house. You can stream just about anything online. You can buy literally movie seats for your living room if you want to. You know what I mean? There's all these things, and they've had to adapt. So, for example, Cineplex, they've now launched this thing where you can get a monthly membership, and it comes with a free movie every month, plus discounts here and there. They've had to adapt to this subscription model just to stay open, because they invested so heavily in the brick and mortar, huge, massive locations that need parking where you can sit down and watch this thing. And if they had just changed their business model a little bit earlier, they would have been further ahead in the game. Like there's no reason why Netflix should even exist, to be honest. They should have launched their own thing first, and then they would own both sides. You want to sit at home or you want to come in.
The interesting thing that people, if you're young, you don't really know this backstory. You just know of Netflix as a streaming service.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess
you only know Amazon the way it is now. Yeah. You don't know all the history of the years that and what they took out, right? Like, you're right. Netflix shouldn't be around. Blockbuster should have dominated over Netflix, but Netflix 100%. Saw an opportunity. They worked through everything. Blockbuster didn't, and they stayed in their old pattern. This is sort of the, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a great way of thinking about it, because there will be, you might've been in business the past 3 to 4 years fucking kicking ass because the economy is a certain way, and you got sold products a certain way, and you got sold, and you just continue down that belief system.
Exactly.
And then there's younger guys that have learned.
Oh yeah.
Because they're listening to somebody else, and they're coming in to make changes, and they go, hey, if gas prices are higher than before, maybe I should make some adaptation. If they look at things and go, okay, I've been selling a ceramic coating at, let's just throw out figures, $1,000 to $4,000. And it's because I'm paying $500 for a bottle of coating that gets one-term application. Now I get it. It was supposed to be put on a boat, but I'm going to put it on a car because the economy tells me, it's okay. And I can charge X amount, and I'm being charged by the company at $500, $400, $300, whatever. It's because that's the way it always was. But we're hearing people that exactly, because we're hearing people just as the same as in the form that got sent in. We're hearing people. There's a guy that's using the similar system. He said he has over $20,000 worth of product sitting on his shelf because he was trying to sell a marine coating to a car. And then you have to top it with this. And in order to top it with that, I've got to leave it in my stall for X amount of time. And I'm going to have this amount invested into it on an hourly rate, plus my shop rate, plus I got to keep the car here, plus I then got to put another topper, and it's a 2-layer system on it now, and I had to do all this work to prep it. I have to charge $4,000. You don't understand. I have all this invested into it. I have to charge $4,000. Whereas, as you mentioned earlier, if they were Lexus and didn't think about looking at a Toyota, well, geez, if you could take a one step, go in, get a good solid 70% one step, put down a hyperClean Uno, hyperClean Dose, hyperClean Trace, 1, 2, or 3 year, it meets somebody at the price point because you don't have a very heavy price point on you. That's not $500. It's actually under $100. True. Your application cost is $10 to $20, $30. Then you just need to charge a $500. You're doing a one step and putting on a $20 cost.
Yeah.
What's that? Your hourly in a 3 to 4, let's call it 5-hour window at max.
Yeah.
And you charge 500 to 1,000. You're making $200 an hour. And if you could do that on a regular basis, and it's scalable, because then these people that are in your shop that you're complaining that they don't have anything to do because you've been trying to do this. The economy has changed and everything's changed. You're still trying to fight towards the old way. Whereas if you just took these people, brought them in, do one steps, get a good 1, 2, 3 year system onto them, keep them maintained. I mean, that goes on for what? And another 10 years? I mean, 20 years?
You could still get the 4K price tag, and how you would do it is, instead of having the vehicle sit there in your shop like that, tell them, listen, I'm going to give you the 1 or the 2 year coating, and you're going to pay $4,000, but then in a year or 2 years, you come back and the next one is free. And you just basically tell them you get 8 applications of it or something. You know what I mean?
Or it comes with what you just said, something a little bit a second ago, which would be interesting when detailers actually catch on to what's been happening for so many years in other industries. A monthly, regular
100%.
What is it? Yeah. What is it that we do with Netflix? There we go. What is it we do with Netflix and Disney Plus and all these? We do monthly subscriptions.
Are huge. They're huge.
Why don't detailers sell? Okay, you're great point. $4,000 you're going to get, and I only have $50 cost into it. Then they should be basically buying a $4,000 for the next 2,000 years monthly service.
Yeah,
and you just say, come in and get their car maintained.
$9 a month or something, and you bring your car in, and now every time you see that customer, you can also upsell them something else, or they're even going to upsell themselves because they're seeing you more as things happen in their life. Like, hey, we just had a new baby. I got my car seats, and my son just threw up all over it. No problem. You know what we can do? We can steam that out. Blah blah blah. This and that. He just upsold himself. He told you his problem. You have the solution. It's done, and because you're dealing with them regularly, and that's the model that everybody really needs to get to. And just look at the market. Everything's switching to,
and maybe looking at the market, they should understand that if they're getting charged $200 for a silica spray, like I can't keep paying that and not charge these high fees, right? So there's part of that in business that if we understand and we'll go ahead and acknowledge that the market is not allowing me the high fees, then I shouldn't continue down the same path and I should make some adjustments. Some of those adjustments should be looking at a lower application cost. There's no doubt about it.
100%. Well, the one thing that the guy that wrote to us, the one thing he mentioned was that a big problem he has right now is his labor costs. And I think it's because the time that each vehicle spends in a bay is expensive, because usually what happens is customers usually pay a fixed price for something, but you pay your employees hourly. So you're at war with the hours.
So as you know, as a business owner, right? I know then if I've got 3, let's just call it 3. Let's just use a round number, $20 an hour, because quite frankly, in today's environment, you got to be close to that. If
you have no choice,
you have no choice. So we're at $60 an hour, and I know that that's 8 hours. Then I know my cost is set for the day. Is my job as an owner to go, I should put 1 vehicle in there? Or is my job as an owner to go,
it's crap.
I've got these expenses, so I need to put in as much as I can through the day and get 100%. These guys producing out. And then instead of doing this, I start throwing out paper like that.
Exactly.
That's the way to do it.
And I tell you, there's a huge difference too when you talk about no-shows. Thank you. If you have, let's say you've got 1 client on the books for between $1,000 and $4,000, or you've got 10 clients on the books for $150 to $300. If that, in the other scenario, the first one, if that 1 guy doesn't show up, you now have $0 on the books. If the 10 guys between 150 and 350 show, if 3 of them even don't show up, you still have several jobs on the books, and you can likely upsell them to other ones. And once you get into the flow as well of being able to handle those 10 jobs, if 3 don't show up, the next guy that calls, you can say, hey, listen, if you could get here in 20 minutes, I can take care of you right now. Give them a discount even because you're filling an empty space. Who cares? Just keep it moving and pump out the jobs. You have to pay for those 3 guys regardless. They're there for the whole day. So that would be my recommendation. And that's why at our shop, we go for the volume. It's all about the volume. And with the volume, we're not worried about, all these little things like, I had 1 guy not show up yesterday. I could care less. He got filled. His spot got filled by 3 others.
And to those of you that go, I can't do volume because I'm about quality. That just means your quality as an owner, as a business operator, is just not as good as ours. That's what it means. Yeah. It means your quality might be you on a car. No problem. Yeah. Awesome. Have great quality with you on a car. Let's go toe to toe. Anybody want to go toe to toe? I've been doing it 20 plus years. Let's go toe to toe. You and me, quality on a car. I'm going to match it.
100%.
Is there a way to be quality? No. Quality's quality. right? There's no, I'm going to beat you. No, you're going to have quality work. I'm going to have quality work. My quality is going to be quality. Your quality is going to be quality. So let's go 100%. Toe to toe. We'll both have quality. I guarantee you, me as an operator of a business, you as an operator of business, our quality is much different. I've scaled myself in a sense that I know how to operate a business and perform quality work that is teachable, trainable, scalable to people. Mm-hmm. And that's the main difference that I really hope that those of you that listen, that have listened to a previous viewpoint, that have now put you in the crosshairs of closing your business. And let's be real clear. I've used the word wartime, and some people have joked about it. There are, as you've seen in that written one, and as we see other people starting to go ahead and raise their hand with acknowledgement of, yeah, my shit ain't as good now as it once used to be. Business isn't quite as good. Well, it's time to, as I have done in the past, go ahead and it's all right. Sometimes it's okay to swallow. Swallow your pride a little bit, acknowledge maybe the way you've been doing, and realize the economy's changing, realize industry's changing, and you can either be left behind like Blockbuster, or you can continue to adapt and grow forward and reach new era in a sense of your business, because you went the way of Netflix and continue to adapt.
100%. Yeah. And, it's funny you mentioned that. I used to have a video business back when Blockbuster existed. And it was called Empire Video. It was when I met my wife, actually. But I sold it because Blockbuster came out with no late fees. And so I did have a competitive edge over Blockbuster at the time because I saw a gap in what they were doing. So what I did, I went to all the pizza stores and I partnered with them. And I said, look, everyone wants pizza and a movie. So why don't we partner together, and I will have my delivery guys deliver the movie with the pizza, but I want a percentage of the pizza. That's the deal. So whatever the order is. So no charge for the delivery, none of that stuff. I'll handle all the cost, the logistics, everything, but I want a percentage of every order, period. So set up a little website. People were able to order. They could get their movie and they could get the pizza and, wings and whatever. My guys would drop it off. And then whenever they were done with the movie, they could just drop it off. We had a drop box. They could, slide it in, the DVD, and then basically we would just, go through them. But the business was doing really, really, really well. I got a good offer on it the minute that Blockbuster was coming out with their no late fees. I didn't want to have to compete with what they were changing to because they had a lot of marketing dollars behind them. And I knew it was only time. Most Blockbusters were near, like a food place or something like that. And I figured, you know what? Why don't I just dump this business? I made some really good money because I had that competitive edge. I didn't see a way that I could have taken that to a different level, and I didn't want to either. But that's where I think anyone listening now should take a look at their business and try and figure out, are you the Empire Video where my heart's not in this anymore? I think I want to jump ship and sell it. Or are you looking at it like Netflix and you think, I have a different way of doing things that I could eradicate my competition, basically. And you got to think there's a lot of guys out there, Marty, that are selling those $1,000 to $4,000 ticket items, and they're relying on only those big clients. They're struggling right now, and I have a very strong suspicion there's going to be a lot of real estate for lease soon. Let's just put it that way, unless people adapt.
Unless they adapt, and the way they adapt is maybe upsells. So I'm excited about that talk next week as we jump into upsells.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one. It's one of my favorite topics in the world. I love upsells. Upsells for me are everything. Humans, we work on reward systems, and so your staff will jump into that next week. But Marty, listen, thanks for joining me again. Appreciate it. Congratulations again, man.
Thank you.
Welcome to the journey,
And I'll see you in Brazil, maybe this Christmas or early next year.
Definitely will. Just let me know, man. I got my bag packed already. We always keep a to-go bag just in case.
Nice.
Good stuff, man. All right,
brother. Have a great week.
You too. Thanks, Marty.